and warm welcome to this edition of World Sports Daily. I'm Jim Williams, along with the man, the legend, the prodigal Sean Miller. Who's coming to us, ladies and gentlemen. Full disclosure, he's injured, but he's here. He's a gamer. He is a gamer. He does not. He doesn't spit it out.
I don't miss stuff.
No, if it takes time, that's okay. Sean, yesterday we talked about the groups. And, we're kind of breaking it down. For those of you who want, there's a bracket, and a FIFA bracket that we have linked in our show box below. By all means, check that out, and, we'll help you with it as best we can. And, we were talking yesterday about the stadium. So if you want, we can play a little video, which came to us from Gold TV about the stadiums, and then we'll talk on the other side. You ready?
Right.
Cool. All right, here we go, folks. Again, this is from Gold TV. Thanks to them. And
a stadium built with containers, a football pitch surrounded by universities, the 10th biggest stadium in the world. The 2022 World Cup is just around the corner, and Qatar will bring us the most exciting and breathtaking stadiums in the whole world. Let's take a closer look at all the Qatar 2022 World Cup stadiums. The eyes of the entire world will be on this stadium on November the 20th. Why? Here, at Al Bayt Stadium, Qatar and Ecuador will open the 2022 World Cup. It's the second biggest venue in the tournament, with a capacity of 60,000 people. The stadium takes its name from Bayt al-Shah, the name of the tent historically used by nomadic people in Qatar and Arab countries. Those tents are traditionally identified with black and white stripes, and that will be visible on the outside of the stadiums. Qatar have never lost a game at this stadium. 3 games, 3 victories. Will they be able to keep their record at the World Cup debut against Ecuador? This is why England will make the World Cup debut against Iran on November the 21st. But it's not the first time they will play here. Khalifa International Stadium first opened in 1976 and is part of the history of football in Qatar. It hosted really important tournaments that helped the sport develop in this country. Even though England will be making the World Cup debut at this stadium, it is not the first time they play here. They played against Brazil back in 2014, a friendly game. The score? A victory for the South American side. This is one of the most peculiar stadiums in this World Cup, Stadium 1974. First of all, the name. Can you think of any other stadium in the world with just numbers in their name? Why is it called that? Well, it's built out of 974 shipping containers, and 974 is also the international dialing code for Qatar. It's a tribute to Qatar's history of international trading and seafaring. Each of the containers' colors indicates what they are for. For example, yellow ones are toilets, blue ones are for food, green ones are medical units. Have you got a VIP pass? Then look out for the grey ones. This is where France will begin the World Cup defense in the 2022 tournament. Al Hanoum Stadium will be the venue for France-Australia on November the 22nd. The stadium design is inspired in the hull of the dhow boat used in Qatar back in the days for fishing. A total of 7 games will be played here, including the first Uruguay-Ghana after the 2010 World Cup Suarez handball incident. I bet you all like your team to play at this stadium. Why? Well, Lusail Stadium will host the 2022 World Cup final. Not only is the biggest stadium in Qatar, but it's also the 10th biggest stadium in the whole world. Its capacity, 80,000 seats. Its beautiful design is inspired in the handcrafted bowls found all across the Arabic and Islamic culture. It will host games in every stage of the World Cup, including, of course, the final. Argentina and Brazil will be making the World Cup debut at these stadiums against Saudi Arabia and Serbia, respectively. What teams do you think will be facing each other at this stadium on December the 18th in the World Cup final? Diamond in the desert. That's how Education City Stadium is also known. The thousands of triangles that compose the exterior of the stadium create a diamond-like pattern that sparkle as the sun moves across the sky. Education City is located outside of Doha, inside Qatar Education City, and it's surrounded by national and international universities. After the World Cup, most of the hospitality areas will be converted into classrooms for the universities. England will be playing at the most beautiful stadium in the World Cup, and that's not me talking. The Ahmad bin Ali Stadium was awarded the Stadium Design of the Year in Qatar in 2016. The outside of the stadium reflects the shapes of the sand dunes found in the Arab deserts, along with little patterns that represent the local flora, fauna, international and national trade, and the importance of the family in Qatar. This is a stadium where Qatar showed the entire world that the World Cup could be held here. It was at Al Tumama Stadium where the organizers demonstrated the cooling technology to FIFA. A mini stadium was built on the site and cooled down using solar power. And that convinced FIFA that the conditions to play football in Qatar were optimal. Its white cladding design is inspired in the gafia, the traditional woven hat worn by men in the Arab countries. If you're traveling to the Qatar World Cup, this might be the first stadium you see. Why? It's close to the airport and many international flights descend just over the stadium. And those are the stadiums for the Qatar World Cup. Let me know down in the comments which one is your favorite one and why. See you in Qatar.
All right, thanks to Goal TV Goal for that. It's check out their YouTube channels. All to do is go up into the search bar and hit Goal, and you'll find them. Some pretty fascinating stadiums there, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this tournament is, once again, if you kind of get past all the other stuff, they're marvels of engineering. It's not like these other tournaments, Russia, Brazil, South Africa a little bit, but the games are all in one place, and these stadiums are all state of the art, all brand new, and it's going to be pretty interesting to watch and see, how many people are there. Is it filled? What's all the technology around it? So, because there's going to be all different technology they're using for this World Cup as well. So, which is something new. But yeah, I think people are starting to get excited for all that stuff as well.
Yeah, I think that the other part is that there'll be a lot of travelers coming in. I suspect that there'll be a number of Europeans, making the trip.
There'll be a lot of Saudis when Saudi Arabia plays, and
Right.
I think when some of the North African teams play, it's not
Senegal.
Tunisia, when Tunisia plays and when Morocco plays, I think there'll be some interesting games here. I wrote my first NJ.com story today about it. It's going to go, not sure when it's going to go live, because I think it's going in the paper on Saturday or Sunday. So hopefully Sunday, the Sunday Times all over the Star Ledger and everything. But there's some interesting games in these matchups, and it's going to be interesting to see if the weather affects it with some of these teams. If the teams that are used to playing in the heat are going to be able to maybe make a little bit of run, and somebody might get knocked out. Maybe maybe that's not used to the weather. I know for me, Morocco is a team I think could surprise some people. Ecuador could surprise some people. Obviously, not from Africa, but it's going to be interesting to see. And the stadiums all around. I like all that stuff. As someone who goes to different stadiums and kind of checks them off when I go, and it's always interesting to see stuff like that for me.
I assume Old Trafford is your favorite then.
Yeah, of course. It's not the nicest stadium I've been to, but of course, yeah, it's my favorite to go because of Manchester United.
Well, it's kind of like if we were to equate it here in the United States, it'd be like going to Fenway Park or to Wrigley Field or even Dodger Stadium. People forget Dodger Stadium was built in 1962. And yeah, it's been upgraded, but it's the same place.
I think the Glazers, or if someone invests in it, I think they're going to build another stadium probably sometime in the next whatever X amount of years.
Decade, maybe.
Yeah, Newcastle's probably going to get a new one, even though people love that one. But yeah, it's the Bernabeu in Madrid is getting a facelift. Instead of building a new one, they're making the same stadium nicer. So maybe Manchester United does something like that. They need to upgrade it, the Wi-Fi and all that stuff. But it's just cool. I think one of the experiences when you go to some games in when you go to Eagles games or whatever, it's all in this complex.
Mm-hmm.
The stadiums aren't really kind of like that. I mean, Green Bay's a little bit in the neighborhood, but when you go to Manchester United, there's like people live like a door down from.
Well, that's why I was talking about Wrigley Field and in Fenway Park. Those were built in neighborhoods at a time when people would walk to the ballpark from their houses.
Yeah. When you walk up to Old Trafford from either the tram stop. Now they got a new tram stop on the other side now. It's part of the thing is you walk up and all of a sudden you see this giant stadium. But I think that's cool. It's not the same here because you gotta drive to Dodger Stadium or wherever. Right. But
even if you're taking the metro, right? Which
you
do in Philly, you can do in New York, you can do in DC, you can do in Chicago, Los Angeles, Chicago and Boston. One of the difference between soccer crowds is they will come up singing their way to the stadium. That is not something that happens here.
Yeah, it's I'm gonna be honest, like I that's the reason I like going to games. I always try to get the tickets in the singing section in Manchester United. It's called the TRA.
Right.
But I like to sing when I'm at these games. Like I go and I sing. It's part of the experience. And everyone's. I know the words. I've been to 100 Manchester United games at this point. So it's like you
got it down pat.
Yeah, it's and then you go to games here and it's like different, but it's the same different stuff. But not to say like I don't like going to an Eagle game or something like that, but like it's just a different experience. And when you go to like games at Liverpool, it's like a they sing at the beginning and they sing at the end. There's 90 minutes of silence, so like that's a big joke about them. So like for everybody except for if you're a Liverpool fan. But yeah, it's. It's cool. The England brings the band, so you'll hear the band in the background, and some of the other ones have noise makers and all kinds of stuff. So it's there's going to be a lot of different things that the Clockwork Orange. The Netherlands fans. They're I was in Portugal in 2019 for the Nations League final when it was Netherlands and Portugal in the final in Portugal and. Portugal also played Switzerland and Netherlands played England. So like got to see all the different fans, but there's some cool pictures I have from it with all the fans dressed in orange in Portugal. And it's pretty cool. There's all the other stuff too. I don't think there's going to be as much like hooliganism around this one in Qatar because, like I just don't think they're going to tolerate it. In Russia, there wasn't as much too, just because of what happened.
Liquor is something that's going to be difficult. That's going to cut down a little bit on it.
2016 was like I think 2014, 2015, 2016, the height of Twitter as it's being called now. But the summer of 2016 for the Euros, when it was in France, and there was a game on the South, it was on the Med somewhere, and Russia played England, and it was just like chaos. There was hooligans fighting in the street. So I think there wasn't as much of that in 2018. There wasn't as much of that at the Euros, obviously, last time because of all the different things that was going on with COVID and everything. And then this time, I don't think you'll see as much of that as well. So
I was down near Monaco.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was down because there's a picture of them fighting alongside the Med.
Right.
There's a picture.
This gorgeous background and all these guys fighting.
There's one guy like this, like come on, and there's shirtless guys and like. I mean, that was the thing about the Russian the World Cup because the hooligans are Spetsnaz and ex-army, and those guys are just not.
Don't want to throw down with them.
They're badass guys. I mean, let's be honest. So, like, it was, when they went to Ukraine, when they had the Poland and Ukraine in 2012. It was interesting too. So because it's all, I mean, there's a whole. It's not like that, and obviously everybody when you go to a you can't go to an Eagles game in Giants gear or Cowboys gear. I mean, it's not. But if you do that in at some of these matches, like in England, you can't even sit in the. If you're sitting in there's separate gates for the visiting fans. If you're sitting and start cheering, they throw you out. Like you can't even sit as a Manchester United fan. Like when I went to Manchester United, Manchester City, and we sat with the Manchester City coaches, at all the way at the top at mid pitch. I mean, United scored twice in the first 20 minutes, and I have my hands I'm sitting on my hands trying not to say anything. And then after the game is over, then you're walking back to town and everybody's cheering, but it's tough. So because it happens, you do end up sitting with other fans, but you can't cheer.
What's it like the press boxes of those stadiums?
They're pretty nice. The last one I went to, I was in a press box in Guimarães for the Nations League semifinal when England played Netherlands and Porto. And those were basically the last time I covered a game over there, but they're pretty nice. They're not as big as, when you go to at the Link, I covered I helped Mark Eckel cover a playoff game, and that thing it's massive. It's not as nice as that, but it's not bad.
Yeah, and I mean, they're not built for that.
Yeah, they don't.
They're fan friendly. They're not necessarily press friendly.
Yeah, they're not expecting 500 media people to come to a game when
I know we're
playing, Rio Ave or something like that. So
I know when I directed World Cup games, that our broadcasters were basically our broadcasters were allowed to stand on a platform that was shared usually by BBC on one side and our German TV on the other. I don't know why or how that all worked out that way, but it always seemed to be that way. And then they would go to their spot, and the spot would literally be in the stands. They would be sitting in the stands with a monitor base, right, where you can see. And so all the other broadcasters, very few of the, other than the U.S., England, Germany, Italy, most of them do not show their announcers on camera. They just go to the game and off they go. But that's kind of a thing here. So we always want to show that the announcers are there. So justify the amount of money paid for it. That's something that you do. But as I said, most of the time, because we're talking, as you said, 400 or 500 people at a game at a press box, there's no press box that fits 400 people. So they set the monitor banks out there, and everybody's watching the same. And I think that a lot of people, just to give you a little insight on this, is the world feed is the feed that everybody gets. So what we're watching here in the U.S. is the same thing they're watching in the U.K., is the same thing they're watching in Australia, is the same thing they're watching anywhere in the world that they're watching the game. They're watching the exact same video that we are, getting the exact same replays that we get, getting the exact same everything. Okay, so we're just taking split feeds off the world feed.
Sometimes that's always contentious when you see sometimes when they cover these games for others. You can tell they're not in at the game. They're in the studio calling the game, and obviously for the World Cup they're all there. But I don't know.
We've had situations where some of the World Cups have been called from the studios, and obviously this year Telemundo will call, as they usually do, all of their games, all the World Cup games from their studios. and probably from, let's see, Fox is doing it, Telemundo's doing it. Telemundo's NBC, so they'd probably be in Connecticut doing it, up in the up at Stanford, where they have the studios that they use for NBC Sports. So they'll probably call the games, but the same video, same replays, does allow you because the host country controls it. Now, the hope is that the host country understands the game well enough to cover it well, but most of the time, because FIFA has a lock on that. So it's FIFA, the host country. It may be Qatar television, but trust me, it's FIFA's video. They control it 100%, and everybody takes a feed off of them. So, as I said, what we see in the U.S. is the same thing everybody else in the world sees. The announce is different, but other than that, same thing. And we're going to get SiriusXM is going to do it on radio. And over in the UK, you get it on radio on BBC 5, I think, is what they do over there. And so there'll be both radio and video of the games. So there's that to look forward to. And as you were saying, after the first day, the opening game is. Oops, I'm just one little bit off. Here we go. Senegal, that's our groups. And then Sunday, Ecuador and Qatar. This is a week from, this is this weekend. So that's the opening game. It's on noon on FS1. And then Monday, it's England versus Iran, Senegal and the Netherlands. And on Fox at 2:00, it's the U.S. and Wales. So they'll be coming on about the same time we will. So we might, who knows? We may do a watch party next month. Who knows? Well, we may, if that's what you guys want to see, then that's what we may see. So that's what's Monday. Tuesday, we got this, which is Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Denmark, Tunisia, Mexico, Poland. That could be interesting.
Big game.
Sorry?
That's a huge game.
Yeah. And France and Australia. That's that one I don't know what to make of. But what's Australia like? I mean, I've been to the country, but
I don't imagine they're gonna do much at this tournament. Maybe they can get a point somewhere.
If it was rugby, I'd feel better about the Australians in that.
Yeah, that Tunisia team is tricky. It's interesting, and obviously Argentina. France, Australia, Denmark. France and Denmark are the two teams that are probably going to do something. However, I think that first Tunisia-Denmark game is going to be very interesting. I think if you're looking for like an upset in these games, you want to look at these first games, although I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue in 2022 because these players just played Monday or Sunday, Saturday, Friday. They come in optimal shape.
Right.
They've been playing, so they're you don't need to get into shape. You don't need these camps. They come in game shape. They're going to be ready to go. So there's no travel issues. So I think you're going to see maybe limited upsets, although sometimes in that first game, what happens is they play to not make mistakes and they play not to lose. So, Denmark's, people are picking them to make a deep run. But once again, every time France and Denmark have been in the same group in a tournament, major tournament, not including the Nations League qualifying just now, France won the tournament. So there's a little bit of an omen there. So.
But the other thing, there's the Wednesday games: Morocco, Croatia, Germany, Japan, Spain, and Costa Rica, and Belgium and Canada.
There's an upset there. One of the games there that I picked as my upset pick. I don't think Costa Rica is going to score a lot of goals in this tournament. Spain doesn't give up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the Morocco-Croatia game, everybody thinks this Croatia team is the same that went to the final. They're 4 years older.
Mm-hmm.
This Morocco team is dangerous. Of all the games, it's interesting, too, when you look at the schedule for the 5 o'clock games, a.m. here, which is 1 o'clock over there. It's 8-hour difference. Every 5 a.m. game, our time, is an African team or a team from the Middle East, Saudi Arabia,
Croatia,
Morocco. I don't know. Maybe to TV schedule, Cameroon, Iran, Tunisia. However, the teams that are probably the best equipped to play in that are those teams. So I don't know. Maybe you see some upsets in those early games. There's not a lot of 5 a.m. games. There's only a few.
Right.
And then even the 8 a.m. games, which is still the middle of the day, there 4 p.m. Most of those are your teams that are from the region, Denmark, Tunisia, and stuff like that. So maybe it has to do with TV over there,
right.
And then maybe it has to do with certain things. But I think that could be something to watch if you're looking for maybe some upsets. Those 5 a.m. games could be the ones to watch because it's the middle of the day and it's going to be hot.
Well, it'll be hot for Swiss. The Swiss will melt.
Yeah.
Cameroon, Uruguay, and South Korea gets the afternoon affair. Portugal, Ghana, and Brazil, Serbia. The night cap.
That'll be an interesting game. If any team in that group can get a point off of Brazil, it's Serbia, and I think Serbia is. If you're looking for a team that might be like the Croatia, some dark horse that could make a deep run. I'm not saying they get to the final, but it could be Serbia because Alexander Mitrovic is a goal scorer, and you can get him at plus 7,000 to be the leading scorer at this tournament, which to me is a crazy number. I mean, he's tearing it up in the Premier League with Fulham this year. He's the reason Fulham's a top 10 team this year and not, in the relegation zone. So, to me, it's an interesting game.
Friday becomes big because that's when the US plays England.
Yeah, Black Friday. Yep.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's there's some interesting games. I mean, really, all 4 games could be interesting. Wales, Iran, obviously, depending on what happens the first games, that's a massive game. England, United States, obviously massive. Qatar, Senegal is a big game, and Netherlands, Ecuador. If Ecuador wins that first game against Qatar and can get a point here against Netherlands, all of a sudden they're probably looking like they go through.
So it's this one's kind of a sleeper in many ways. But again, that's the kind of thing where you just set your TV and streaming device on FS1 and Fox and just leave it for the day because you're going to be from 5 a.m. till about 4:30, 5 o'clock at night. 12 hours of soccer action.
Yes.
And Saturday, we got this coming up, and that's Tunisia you talked about.
Yeah, this is this Tunisia team, Hannibal Mejbri, obviously on loan from Manchester United, could be one of these breakout stars. Poland, Saudi Arabia. This Saudi Arabia team, nobody's given them a lot of looks here, but I'm not sure how good Poland and Mexico. I know Mexico's they're like 13th or 15th in the FIFA rankings, but they're not any good. Poland is Robert Lewandowski. Saudi Arabia, if they could get a result here, it could be interesting. And France, Denmark's the game. Argentina, Mexico is a good game too, but France, Denmark's a massive, massive game. Could be the best match of the first round, the most important maybe of the whole group stage.
You think whoever comes away with a victory in this one between France and Denmark takes that group?
Yeah, easily. Yeah, I think this is. I think if France beats Denmark, they could both finish on 7 points. It could come down to tiebreakers, but yeah, if I just think
Argentina in there too.
Yeah, Argentina is the with Group C. I think Argentina, Mexico, Poland. I mean, they should win that first game pretty easily. Argentina against who do they play the first day? Saudi Arabia, and then, but I think it could be. If Denmark wins that and they just beat them twice, I to be honest, I think this is the worst thing that could have happened. They played in the same Nations League group because now France knows they can't underestimate them, and I just think this is the World Cup. It's a bigger stage. I think they'll be ready to go. But a lot of people are picking Denmark to do something in this tournament.
They can't sneak up on them.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Japan, Croatia on Sunday, Belgium, Morocco, Croatia, Canada, and Spain and Germany. That would be
massive game.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, too, because when you look at how these things set up, if Spain loses, the winner of that group is in good position maybe to get to a semifinal. If you're in a semifinal, you have a chance to win the tournament. The loser of that group has to play. I think what is that? That's Group E, right?
Right.
The loser of that game is going to have to play probably Belgium, which, they could beat Belgium, but, now all of a sudden you got to play 4 tough games to get to a final instead of maybe 3, instead of having to play, the runner-up of that group, which is going to be Morocco or Croatia. That's a lot different prospect than it is playing Belgium, and then having to play a tough game, and then have to play a tough game. That extra game, I mean, there's only probably 2 or 3 teams in this tournament that could maybe make that run 4 games. It's probably Brazil, Argentina, and France. So France did it in 2018 to win, but it's really tough. They almost didn't get out of that first game. They beat Argentina 4-3. So,
and speaking of Brazil, they on Monday will get the Swiss.
Yeah, it's and that day Portugal Uruguay is a huge game for Group H. Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't understand what he's doing, doing these interviews and stuff right now before the World Cup. It's just a lot of distractions. This Uruguay team is good. I'm Fede Valverde and Darwin Nunez from Liverpool, and they got some players here. This is going to be really, everyone just thinks Portugal is going to walk through this group. I'm not sure about that. And then obviously the other game is South Korea, Ghana in that group. So, if one of those teams can win that, they're still alive in this group going into match day 3.
And then Tuesday pretty much rolls it out, and that's it. The 2 o'clock game is the U.S. and Iran. But Wales, England, that's going to be no love lost there either.
Yeah, the home countries. When you get to match day 3, all the games in the group are at the same time, so there's no shenanigans. So, make sure you have your 2 TVs or your computer, your iPad, whatever it is. But
it's a 2-screen operation.
Yeah, Ecuador, Senegal is a massive game. I would expect both of those. The winner, if there's a winner in that, would probably go through. Same thing with Iran and United States. I mean, Iran could be on 3 points. United States could be on 3 points. Wales could be on 3 points. I mean, there's just it's really tough. That's the hardest group to pick. And when I did my stories, I did upset, alert and all this stuff. And the lock, I did a lock for every group. And for that group, I just put none because I just don't think there's a lock at all. This England team just was terrible. And, I think England goes through, but, who knows?
Right. But let me ask you this. We talked about the fact that everybody's played. all right, and they should be match set, which is good. There's match fit, but they haven't played on the national team together in a while.
Yep.
Are there some countries where that benefits because of the fact that they have, they finished their season earlier, or they got to their camp earlier, or whatever, that they are clicking on as a team, where these other guys, they've been playing in the ELP and other places, but now they have to play as a unit? Or is that something that, these guys are so used to playing against and with each other, they don't have to worry about that?
No, I think it's an issue. And there's going to be just the good thing is they're going to come in match fit, like you said.
Right.
But, some of the other countries, even like the U.S. right now, I mean, most of their team plays in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, it's an MLS league where the MLS has been done and they could have been training together. I mean, the Leeds players, Tyler Adams and Brendan Aronson and Pulisic, and all the English players are the players that play in Premier League, just came in, just flew out from there. So I think it's going to be. I'm not sure it's going to be as big of a deal as maybe some teams. This for the Spanish team, maybe because most of their players are playing in Real Madrid, Barcelona, whatever.
Sure.
Sometimes I think that's not as big of a deal, but yeah, it could. Netherlands has a lot of Ajax players in PSV, but it
What
could
about,
be.
What about any early predictions for a surprise Golden Boot winner?
Yeah, I like Mitrovic at huge money. He's plus 7,000 to win the scoring title, and he's to be the Golden Boot. I think he's plus 4,000, something like that. You want to look for players. You got to look for players that are going to go deep in the tournament. We looked at this earlier today, and you have to go. Of the last 4 or 5 tournaments. It's been someone playing into like that,
We have multiple games. I mean, you can't do it.
Yeah, you got to play 6 or 7 games. You're not gonna, if you're in the group stage, it's not gonna happen. So you're looking for someone that at least gets to the quarterfinals. And even if you get to, even if you don't get to the final, there's the 3rd and 4th place game, which is usually overs. I mean, those games are usually 3-2, 4-3, whatever it is, because those teams are out and they just play. So, there's usually some goals in it. But, so you're looking for someone who takes penalties. That's why Harry Kane is there, and Mbappe and Neymar, players like that. Brazil, Vinicius Jr. could be it. But I think, I would side with Neymar just because he takes the penalties.
Neymar's capable in some regards of pulling off a hat trick.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. That was my thinking with Mitrovic because, Serbia is going to play Cameroon. And Cameroon, I think, is the lowest
ranking team.
Yeah, they're pretty lowly ranked. And Serbia might need to if Serbia can win that game big, he could get 3 goals in that game. If someone gets a hat trick in the first somewhere in the group stage, 5 goals or 6 goals is going to do it. This isn't going to be 10 or 12 goals that wins the Golden Boot here. It's going to be 5 goals or 6 goals. I mean, if you get a hat trick in a game, you're halfway there.
Right.
So, anybody that could do that, so I'm looking at teams that maybe have to win and playing maybe a lower seeded team, something like that. So, maybe Brazil against in their, not the Serbia game, the first game Brazil plays. Who do they play first? They play Serbia, and then they play.
I can pull it back up.
They play Cameroon the last day. So, if Brazil needs to win that game to go through, not to go through, but to win the group,
there's your list for that.
Hat trick and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're looking for somebody like that. Golden Ball, that's somebody who's going to go, the winner of the Golden Ball is the best player, and it's a technical award. So, that's Luka Modric won it last time, I believe, and then he won the Ballon d'Or later. But you're looking for someone who's going to be in the final.
Mm-hmm.
So either Messi or someone from Brazil, Neymar, or somebody like that, someone with some flair, or Mbappe, somebody like that from France. So,
well, as a former keeper myself, I always look for goalkeepers, and there's 4 or 5 good ones in this one. Hey, Jay Jones, U.S. to win it all. Now there's somebody who's got quite the optimistic.
Yeah, there's a way to,
it could happen. Anything.
Yeah. Anything, you're looking for something to do. U.S. to get out of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Or U.S. to maybe make if you think the USA gets beat in the round of 16 or it gets to the quarterfinals. I mean, there's ways to kind of maximize your plays here, but yeah, that they will not be my pick. However,
hey, anything's possible.
Anything is possible.
It would be better if Al Michaels were doing it, because then, do you believe in miracles? Then there's that possibility.
Yeah.
But, it's all kidding aside, it's not chopped liver. They're a pretty decent side.
Yeah, no, look, there's a chance. Like if they beat Wales, there's a chance they win the group. And they did the last time they were in with England in 2010. They won the group.
Right.
Rob Green made that error, and USA won the group. And then England got knocked out by that terrible call. Frank Lampard scored against Germany. The ball was 5 meters over the line, and they didn't call anything. Would never happen now, obviously, with VAR. So, that's the other thing. There's going to be a lot of technology at this tournament, so you're not going to get some of these dodgy calls you used to get.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, I don't mind it. I think they need to change the actual rules.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they're doing it now with the offside. Gives the attacking player the advantage. I think that the next thing they need to do is change the offside rule so that if any part of your body is even with the defender, even if you're a yard ahead,
right,
your foot is even. I think that it should be that. I think any part of your body is onside. I think you should be onside, like the hockey rule.
Right.
But, that's down the line.
Fight that battle another day.
Yeah.
I will tell you, as someone who's a big tennis fan, I do think that technology's helped tennis a lot.
Yeah.
I think that it's certainly not going to hurt soccer, and we're going to start seeing it in baseball. I know in spring training, and actually the Florida State League and the A-League, they didn't have a home plate umpire. The balls and strikes were called from an electronic eye that was directly behind home plate. So I'm not sure we're ready for that, but technology is going to help.
Yes.
And as long as we don't get to the esports situation where nobody actually plays anymore, all they do is play it on on video games.
Avatar, yeah.
Avatar teams, yeah. But no. Speaking of keepers, who are some of the ones that you think are worthy of conversation?
Well, the 2 Brazilian keepers are both very good. Ederson and Alisson, one plays for Liverpool, one plays for Manchester City, and only one of them can play. It's not like I was going
to say, that's an abundance of riches.
Yeah, the 2 best attackers on the team are the 2 best goalies in that tournament might be from the same organization. Right. I think Alisson plays a little bit just because I think maybe they like his what's the word for this? It's not as chaotic as Ederson.
Right.
Ederson worked real well for City, but maybe not for Brazil.
Well, he's also not as flamboyant. Somebody who jumps out and basically challenges you to shoot on it.
Yeah. I would agree. I think that Brazilian team is so good all over the pitch that I think they just need a little bit somebody who's just going to make stops and sweeper keeper as well, but not going to be Ederson makes a mistake every once in a while. That's what Lloris does for France, which bothers me. I mean, I had France -1 in the tournament in the final last time, and it was 4-1, and then he makes that stupid mistake, and all of a sudden you're like, it's 4-2, and the game that should have been an easy win, you're sweating it out. So he makes that mistake. But
any keeper who ventures 20 yards out of the goal mouth and is starting to challenge you, it's like no, go back, please.
Edward Mendy, from Senegal, who now has lost his place really in Chelsea, but he won him the Champions League a couple years ago. He's pretty good. I mean, if these teams, you can't. That's one position. If you make mistakes at keeper, I mean, it's just going to be magnified. I mean, the mistakes, I watch enough games where I see mistakes all over the place that lead to goals. But, if you're just watching a game as like, hey, this is, World Cup, and you're kind of a casual soccer fan, that's going to be magnified. You're like, the keeper should have probably 5 mistakes leading up to it. But
and you're always looking at, okay, 3 guys in the midfield screwed up.
Yeah.
And the keeper gets blamed for it.
Yeah. Sometimes.
Come on, guys.
I know.
But, and that's why when you're watching a replay of a goal, right, you take the replay as far back as possible so that you can see how they built up to get to the goal. Because if all you see is just the shot past the keeper, you're sitting there going, oh, well, he beat that guy. What you don't see is how many guys screwed up to get it to that point. Yeah. So, it's how are you going to stop something if it wasn't your fault to get it there?
Yeah.
There's
most of the goals happen from, there's individual brilliance and stuff, but most of the goals happen from mistakes way up the pitch, and it's a cascade of errors. This person is dragged out of position because someone's out of position, and the next level is dragged out because they're covering for that. And then there's a gap, and you're like, where's the left back? And you're like, wait a second. The left back had to cover this guy because this guy's out of position and lost, the wing lost the ball at the pitch. So, it's not always as easy as that. Yes, it looks like it's the left back's fault because he's way out of position. But, and sometimes the left back's out of position and it's his fault. But,
right, exactly.
Sometimes he's dragged out of position because he's covering for someone else who made a mistake, and you blame that person. But
it's blown coverage, like in football,
exactly.
Football, where you blame the corner for not covering a guy when the linebacker was supposed to cover him and you missed it. So boom, there you go. But anyway, some final thoughts before we get out of here on a kind of a dreary here on the East Coast, cool and dreary Tuesday.
Yeah, this is gonna be I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I know for at least the first week, but this is gonna be the World Cup. There's always some surprises. It's not always the chalk. A lot of times it is the chalk. It's a lot like the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Here, there's some surprises early on, and somebody gets to the somebody gets to the round of 16. Every once in a while, you get a team that gets to the Final Four, or a team. Most of the time, though, it's North Carolina and Kansas. It's the 1 seeds that win the tournament. It's going to be Brazil, Argentina, France, England. There's not a team from the 10th team in the odds that's going to win it. It's not. You can't do it. They're not good enough to win 4 games in a row. Someone's going to pick you off. So you got to just look for that.
Well, kudos to your Tar Heels in the latest NCAA basketball rankings with
play tonight at 8:00.
They got a showdown down the road tonight, so you'll get a chance to see them tonight. But they're playing well, and they're Stanford and South Carolina on the women's side actually have a date this Sunday afternoon, I think.
There's a big game tonight, that Champions Classic, Kentucky, Michigan State, Duke, Kansas, at 9:30, which is never going to kick, it's not going to tip off till 9:57. But,
right.
I don't even know why they
even listed as that. Yeah.
Four of the top, 3 of the top 7 teams there in action in those. So, there's other stuff. That's the best thing about some of this is that, you got these World Cup games, they'll be over by 4, and then you get ready for the rest of the action. So
you can watch some other stuff at night. Sure. So there's all good stuff. So, all right. Well, we will be back tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to take you, with the help of Al Jazeera, out to each stadium from the airport. And the cool thing about it is they have their train system, which is like our metro system. You can be out to any one of these stadiums in hardly any time at all. They've got some of the fastest trains in the world at over 100 kilometers an hour to get you out to these places. So we'll take a look at that tomorrow with our friends from Al Jazeera. So
nice,
cool. And anything else that we got? Who knows? People might show up, wander by. You never know. That's just how this place rolls. So, guys, we thank you very much for watching this, and we shall return tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look in the show box below for all of Sean's NJ.com writings, as well as a bracket that you can work with as a bracket challenge. All that in the show box below. So check it out. Do us a favor. Hit like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get all the notifications, and leave a comment down there. If you watch us after we're over, which many of you will, leave a comment. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll answer it. Okay, fair enough. All right. Until tomorrow, guys. For Sean Miller, the prodigal Sean himself, and me, Jim Williams, we've had a lot of fun. We'll be back tomorrow. Okay, and like I said, Sean's the warrior. He'll game it out, and we'll be all good. All right. Take care, everybody.